So in the last section, we implemented the reading part of data, so execute query, and we returned a single row. In this section, and then we also demonstrated that execute operation was not working and had not been implemented. And now we're going to go implement writing data. So that's the execute operation method. So I'll go back into Visual Studio. And we need to find our method here, which is execute operation. It's not implemented, so we're going to replace that with our implementation. And I'll walk you through this code here. So the execute operation takes an operation input, and the input name is the name of the operation. So in this case, it will be upsert, which is the action that we defined in the metadata section. And then following on that, we have the input has an input property, which is an array of data entities. And in this case, since we're not implementing bulk, we were only going to have a single data entity. So I'm only interested in the first element of that. So I'm going to take that out and put it into a variable called data. I just wanted to demonstrate that there are lookup conditions on updates and deletes. And this is how you would get that. We're not using that for an upsert, but in some cases you would need to take the expression that the lookup condition provides and do some work with that. And then in this case, I'm getting the entity name out of the data entity, and it's the object definition full name that I'm interested in here. So that would be greeting in this case. So I'm going to switch over the operation name here. And in our case, we only have the one target operation. So this is a little bit unnecessary, but I just want to show you in general you would be dispatching that name to whichever operation was provided. So if the case is upsert, we're going to go in and take the property that was passed into us, the greeting template, so whatever value was pushed into that data entity, and put that into our variable template here. And then again, I'm going to get the local data storage, and then I'm going to write to that value, and I'm going to write the value that was passed into the template here. So if you remember from our job, what we had done was we had implemented, or we had mapped that field to hello, comma, and then use the string formatting symbol so that we can provide a value in there. And in our case, we want to return the username. And then I'm returning an operation result, and the operation result can encapsulate error information, the number of objects affected, in our case 1, and the output, which is the return value. In our case, we're just going to return the data that was sent into us and whether it was successful or not. And all of these are in arrays, which, so if you were doing bulk operations, you'd need to match those up to the input. And in this case, since we only have the one value, we just return the single value. And then if that didn't match anything, I'm returning some error information here. So this is how you would return an operation result that was an error. So the success is false there. The objects affected is 0. And then we're saying that the operation was not supported. We won't hit that because we only do have the one target action at this point. So I'm going to compile that. And that's successful. So we're going to, once again, go back and stop our agent and then copy those newly built files onto our agent. Okay, then we want to restart the agent. We'll go back into Visual Studio. So our agent is shut down and restarting right now, so the message is probably getting sent back as we speak and will get updated automatically. And there it is. So I'm going to go back into the solution just to remind you what the mapping looks like. So in the upsert field mappings, we've mapped this to hello, comma, and then brackets with a 0 around it, and that's the value we're going to replace the username with that value. And the username is coming from the connection value that we connected with. Didn't make any changes there, so let's run this job now. And since we didn't make any changes, it can start right up. We don't have to recompile that and send the newly compiled package down to the agent. And if we did everything correctly here, we should not see any errors. And again, once it does get starting, this job should run very quickly. At the starting time, it does take a while because it has to send a message back down to the agent. And so we have completed there. I can see there's no errors on that, so it was a successful run. And now just the way this job is set up is that we have written data to the local data storage, and then when we query it back, we should see a different result because we've changed the data by writing it on our upsert method. So let's go back in and look at a preview now and see if that works successfully. So if I go into preview now, so we've changed the value of our greeting template, and the value that comes back on the message property now is a string formatting of the greeting template and the username. So let's see if that worked. Hopefully it should tell us, send us back a message that equals hello and then my name. And my name being the name that we use for the username property of the connection. So again, on what preview does is it sends a message from the cloud, and then we got our information back there. So it sends a message to the cloud, to the agent, makes the query, and then returns the value. And we got hello fuzz there, so it did properly write, and we have successfully created a HelloWorld connector. So if we go back here, we have developed, we've done this in 4 major sections of developing the HelloWorld connector. First, we demonstrated discovery, so that at first we did not even have the connector type in the system at all. We built that, and we're able to try to use that in the connector, in the connection screen, and then moved on to the connection UI and connecting. And then we displayed metadata, so describing our data, our greeting entity with our message and greeting template properties. And then we demonstrated data, and we split that into 2 parts, where there's reading data or implementing execute query, and writing data implementing execute operation. And that completes our HelloWorld connector.